Hello guys, welcome. Today's video is another true crime serial killer video. Now, you guys know I love these types of videos. I love watching these types of videos, and I know you guys love them too. Now, these videos are definitely some of my most favorite on this channel to film, and I think that you guys really like them too, so I'm super excited to be doing this. Today's video is over Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. I don't know what that was, but yeah, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Now, let me just go ahead and say, so like I mentioned before, Jeffrey Dahmer is my favorite serial killer, and then I really like Ted Bundy, and I also really like Richard Ramirez, as you know, research wise. But I will say Richard Ramirez takes the cake with making me scared out of my ever-loving mind. So whenever I research like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and any other thing that honestly that I've researched at any point in time in the recent past, none of it's ever bothered me or affected me in any way. But him that we are going to be talking about today literally scares the bejesus out of me, and I was like, oh, how am I even gonna get to sleep? It was a lot. But I'm gonna quit talking. Let's go ahead and hop right into this video. So Richard was born in El Paso, Texas on February 29th of 1960. And he was born to an immigrant father and mother who did come over from Mexico. Now, Richard's father was actually a policeman in Juarez, I believe is how you may pronounce it, in Mexico. But then he came, of course, to the United States and started working for a railroad. Now, Richard's mother actually started working for a factory where, unfortunately, inside this factory, which it is like this in a lot of factories, fumes and stuff really can have an effect on your health. So she was working in this factory where the fumes weren't doing her any good. So this kind of comes to play a little bit into Richard's early life and his siblings' younger early life. So there were 5 kids in the Ramirez family, and Richard was the last. Now, 2 of the Ramirez kids actually did have some birth defects because of the way that his mom had to work in those conditions. Like, they had some problems because of that, which it was definitely sad. But when Ramirez was born, he seemed to be completely healthy and normal, like nothing wrong with him, just a normal healthy little boy. And as he was young, a little boy in like grade school and stuff like that, all the teachers, his friends, said that he was very charismatic and cute and funny and really got along with everybody. And it was like this for a while as a kid, it really was. But one bad thing, and when I was researching and just finding out these little bad things that would happen, I would be like, if that just wouldn't have happened, you know, maybe that was a contributing factor to why he is like he is, and if that wouldn't have happened, maybe he wouldn't be like he turned out. But Ramirez had 2 really bad accidents as a kid where he did hit his head pretty hard. And not for sure if it was because of this or not, but as a kid also he started to have seizures. So basically, in school, Ramirez would have seizures quite often, so that actually the children knew what they had to do. Like, they had this thing that they would do, like a drill per se. Every time that he would have a seizure, they would get up against the wall and the teacher would hold him down and get him through it. But this was very common in his childhood. Other than that though, still, he led a pretty normal childhood. One thing though that was really sad, and it may be because his father was used to being a policeman. I'm not sticking up for him, oh my god, not in any way, but I think maybe he got his sternness and extra harshness from maybe being a policeman. But his father would actually hit the kids, and it was really sad, and I don't know why he did it, that's just my guess, but he would beat on the kids. And that didn't even bother Richard for him to get beat on per se directly. It was mainly the fact that the father hit his siblings. He did not like it. He hated it. He didn't care, like I said, if his father hit him, but it was his siblings that he cared about, and I couldn't even imagine. It's sad, but that was another factor that really started to mess with Richard. And now this part, this next part, it'll probably make you guys sick and irritated, because I sit here and think, what I'm about to tell you guys is probably a huge contributing factor to why Ramirez turned out the way he did. Let's go ahead and talk about Richard's cousin. Richard Ramirez had a cousin who was in the army. His name was Miguel, or Mike Ramirez, and he was in the army and became so good in the army that he actually became a Green Beret. And if you don't know, those are some really kick-butt army men. They are very smart and intelligent and a strong force to be reckoned with, and Mike was one of these guys. And this was actually during the Vietnam War. So Mike actually was over in Vietnam fighting, and it's sad and it's terrible and it ticked me off to hear this, but one thing that he actually did was kill the women for fun. So he would kill Vietnam women for fun, just for kicks and giggles, and it was so sad. He would do this and like behead them and all these terrible things, and actually take pictures of it and take them with him. And no one cared because they were the enemy, and they just didn't care. They said nothing. They let them kill. And that was just ridiculous and terrible and horrible, because these innocent women and children did nothing, but they had to watch their mothers and their, you know, sisters and stuff like that be killed, and nothing was done about it. So when Mike got home, him and Richard spent a lot of time together. And mind you, Richard was really young, anywhere from 9 to 11 at this time, and him and Mike would talk all the time. And Mike would tell him all of these stories of all the women that he killed and beheaded and all the terrible things he did in the war, and he would laugh about it and all that kind of stuff. And he even showed Richard as a kid the pictures of the women that he killed. And not only did he do that, but he actually took some of the weapons that he had and told Richard the proper ways. Make sure you kill somebody, like right when you stab them or whatever, like the perfect way to kill somebody. He would teach this child these things, and he got, what a great influence, right? So not to my surprise, a little while after all this happened, Mike, Richard's cousin, actually shot his wife in the face and killed her. And actually Richard was a part of this. He didn't do it, but he watched his cousin do it. So basically, when Mike was teaching Richard all of these different ways to successfully kill a person, one day Richard went into the kitchen with Mike, and Mike pulled out his gun from the refrigerator, and for some reason that's where he liked to keep his gun. He wanted to keep it cold, so that's where it was. He pulled the gun out and showed Richard how to shoot somebody and kill them point blank, and he killed his wife right there in front of Richard, shot her right in the face. And Richard later stated that he remembered that day to a T. He remembered everything that happened as soon as she got shot, watching her fall to the ground, and it stuck with him. Now, of course, he did go to jail for this, and of course Richard did keep getting older, and as I've mentioned before in serial killer videos, around the adolescence age, when you're getting into being a teenager, things change so much. And during that stage, with everything changing and, you know, turning into more of an adult, at the age of 13 to 14, he really started to be obsessed with hardcore crime things, you know, even more so than when Mike was talking to him, and Satanism. So when Richard was growing up, him and his family were actually Catholic, but at this time he began to explore Satanism and would actually sneak out of his house at night and go spend the night in cemeteries and pray to Satan. So that happened. Alright, so let's go ahead and kind of fast forward to when he started to kill. One day Richard decided to leave El Paso and go to Los Angeles. So when he got there, he thought, this is a new opportunity, the world is my oyster, and that's when he started his killings. His killings were all over California. He went to different parts of California, like suburbs and places, to do his killings, and that is just where it all started. And now what he would do, and this is why I was so scared laying in bed and late at night researching this, he would actually sneak up to people's houses, look in them, try to find ways to get in them, and he would find any way possible now, like whether it's a window, side door, back door, front door, whatever. So that's what he did. He would break into these houses, and a lot of the couples and single people as well that he would kill would be elderly. I saw this as a trend a lot when looking through his victims. He would break in the house, go in and shoot them point blank right in the head or stab them, and it was very, very brutal. One thing that he would do if he did come on a house, that whatever house that he thought he wanted to break into, if there was a couple, what he would do, he would basically go up and kill the man straight away, and then he would tie up the wife and assault her and then kill her. So it was always like the man first, and then assault the wife and then kill the wife. That was normally how that went. And a lot of these people, like I said, were elderly, literally in their like 70s and 80s. But I mean, technically the ages did go from all over the spectrum, but it was sick. And now a couple of people did actually escape. One incident was that he followed a lady to her house where she actually lived with a roommate, and he did attack the main girl that he had followed and hit her down. She faked dead, and so he went in the house to rob it, where the roommate was unfortunately there, and she was killed. But the original girl still played dead. When Ramirez ran out, she actually was able to get, you know, a really good look at him to later help the police. And this happened with a few different people that escaped, and different composite sketches were, you know, drawn up and put around town. And I mean, when I looked at the composite sketches, I personally did not, I don't know, I didn't think they really looked anything like him. But there were composite sketches up, and they were able to say that he was a Hispanic man, really, you know, dark skin, messed up teeth, you know, stuff like that that would help. Another key thing that would really help police, although it was a key thing, but it was hard, was the fact that Richard actually wore these special shoes that were brand new, and actually only one place in the part of California actually even sold these shoes. So the police thought, like, hot dog, we got this. And then they go to the place and realize that he had paid in cash, and the store owner, I mean, obviously when he paid for the shoes, the store owner wasn't like, well, that's a killer, let me remember him. So they didn't remember what Ramirez actually even looked like. So unfortunately the police could not find him through that, but the shoe print was actually able to at least link him to other murders, which made the police and the whole entire different places that he was hitting in California able to realize that they did have a serial killer on the loose. Now, communities were scared half to death because he was hitting every little which way, like everywhere you could think of, like he was going and killing, and nobody knew like where he would pop up next, or just, you know, anything like that. So people were scared half to death, and they didn't know what to do. And now at one point, actually, Richard did get arrested, not for killings but for something else, got put in jail, and so there they actually had his name. So later on, that was a key point in finding him. They finally actually had a name, his picture, they knew about the shoes, they had all these different things actually going for them. And along with the fact that he still worshipped Satan, so in a lot of his killings with blood, he would draw the symbol like on the bodies and on the wall, the pentagram, I do believe is what it's called, the sign of the devil, on the wall on the victims. And that was another key piece that helped them find him. It was just all these different things that showed that, hey, we do have a serial killer on the loose. And then finally, oh hey, look, this is his name, things like that. And so anyway, let's skip to close to when he got caught. When they found out everything they needed to know, they found out all of his information, and they figured he knew as well. They thought, oh my gosh, okay, he's gonna try to escape and go back to his hometown of El Paso. So that's what they thought. So they went to like all the different Greyhound bus stations because they figured that he would use Greyhound buses. So they went there and staked out, and they thought, okay, we're like going to be here ready to catch him when he comes to try to leave. But that wasn't the case. He was actually already in El Paso, and he was visiting his family, which he actually gave a lot of the jewelry that he ransacked from houses to his family, just as a side note. But he was actually on his way back to California from El Paso, and so he got off the bus. And he he realized he was going to get caught because he actually made it through the station, but the police were there and bystanders were there, and people started to recognize him. And they started to recognize him because this was such a widely known thing. Him and his killings, the Night Stalkers, what they called him, of course, before they knew his name. The Night Stalker was a face. He was a famous face, and everyone knew it because everybody was scared. And so people started to recognize him. He ran away to a gas station. The gas station people recognized him. He tried to board another Greyhound bus, and the people recognized him and pointed and screamed, "Murderer, murderer." And I thought this was so amazing. Like a whole group of around 100 people were chasing him, screaming, "Murderer, murderer." People called the cops, and there was literally bystanders everywhere just cornering him. So he knew that he knew he was caught. And so the bystanders got him, they pinned him down, they were beating him up, screaming, "Murderer, murderer, killer, killer." And then the police arrested him. So I think that's pretty awesome that so many people came together, you know, that they knew that was him and they were not gonna let that guy get away. But just like the trend, like with the other serial killers, he had a following. A lot of girls who literally just wanted his attention because they thought he was the bee's knees. They thought he was so good looking and all that stuff, which I don't understand, but they did. They thought he was very handsome and they obsessed over him. Now, these women would show up to his trial and things like that, dressed in all black, just like he liked and like he would because of his Satanism, and he loved it. He was very cocky going into trial because he didn't care. He believed in, you know, Satanism. He prayed to Satan, and he was like, well, I have a special place on earth. I'm gonna have a special place in death, and this is just a part of it. Death didn't bother him, and he was just eating it up. He wasn't remorseful, he wasn't sad. He was eating it up, just like he did in interviews. He just kind of bragged, really, and he was so boastful and so gross. And even in trials with the victims' family members that would be there, he would literally turn around and like snicker at them and laugh. When they were talking in detail about the murder of their family members, he would literally look at them and laugh and snicker and clap his hands, and he was loving it. And that is so disgusting to me. Ooh, it just made me so mad. But he would do stuff like that, and he even would draw like pentagrams on his hand and raise them and say, "All hail Satan," like praise Satan during court and all that kind of stuff. But those women, his little groupies, would literally be there just wanting him to turn around and give them the time of day and like smile at them, which he would. So I guess they got their wish. I don't understand it, but anyway. And of course he did get sentenced to death on death row. But another thing that also happened was he got married. So he got actually married to one of his little fangirls in prison. So he got married to Doreen Leoy, I do believe is how you pronounce her name. She had written him over 70 letters, I believe it was like 77, during his incarceration, and then they finally met and got married. He actually proposed to her in 1988, but they got married in 1996. And that was in St. Quentin Penitentiary. She was very crazy. She said in a lot of different interviews that she didn't believe he did any of that stuff. She just thought he was handsome and so sweet and kind, and he couldn't do anything bad, which makes no sense because he's talked about what he's done. He knows what he's done. I mean, he's been hell Satan and all over, you know, in the court trials, and he's evil, and he's even, you know, said it. So like, I don't know. But they got married, and she absolutely adored him and loved him. And in the actual wedding ceremony, they didn't say "till death do you part." They left that part out, I guess because he was on death row. But they did it like the normal ceremony at the jail. So actually Doreen said that whenever Richard was taken to execution, that she would indeed kill herself. But this is where things got a little tricky. So Richard Ramirez actually never got executed. He died actually in prison in 2013 of natural causes. Now I actually am a little like feeling cool that I was actually alive for this serial killer, because with Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy I wasn't even here yet. So I found it cool that this was definitely during my time, all this the later stuff. But he died in 2013, which really wasn't that long ago when you think about it. And sources had wondered like, did she carry through and kill herself? But she didn't. She did not actually kill herself when he died, and people don't even know if she took his remains, because his remains were up for grab for a while after he died. But people say that they don't think that anyone actually got the remains. There's no like known evidence whether they did or not. So people do speculate that Doreen left him after figuring out that his last victim was a 9-year-old girl. So we really don't know about that, but she did not kill herself. So maybe after figuring out that like, yeah, his DNA was linked to a little girl, maybe she was like, okay, well maybe, he really is a killer, which she should have known anyway. But yeah, so Ramirez never actually faced the death sentence. He died of natural causes, and there's no other known whereabouts about his estranged wife. Whew. But that is it, y'all. That is it for the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez true crime story of the day. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you haven't seen me before, I'm Anna Louise, and I have my main channel, it's Anna Louise, which you should totally go subscribe to. I do betta fish and animal videos, and yeah, so please give this video a big thumbs up and make sure to subscribe, which you can do by hitting my face right up here, and you can watch another one of my videos by clicking right here, and I would really hope that you would do so. And I really hope that you have a great day or night or whenever you may be watching this, and I will see you guys in my next video.